Bash! Hello Leeds United fans, I hope you're all doing fantastically well. It is Connor here. We're back here on another sunny day. I could get used to this, everybody. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful, I tell you. Shout out to all the Welsh Leeds United fans as well for my terrible accents. But we're back here with something a little bit different. And it's going to be a little bit of a walkabout. I know you guys love this. I'm going to do something a little bit more specific and in the studio and a little bit more detailed when it comes to the graphics as well. When it comes to Leeds actually maybe on board with signing a player in terms of player profiles. But today I'm going to be speaking about Adam Hložek, and we mentioned him on the video earlier on, but we've seen Adam Hložek, and you can search him on your Twitter sphere. You can search him as well just on Google. It's H-L-O-Z-E-K. He is currently playing for the Czech Republic. He played 65 minutes against Georgia yesterday before being taken off. And listen, he is a huge talent, very, very young, and surprisingly, after, we mentioned it on the video this morning, we only briefly spoke about it. He's barely got any minutes this season whatsoever for Leverkusen. And really surprisingly, there's conversation right now, there's discussion, as we always say, that he's going to be leaving Leverkusen for 10 million euros, not even pounds. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Hložek. Broke onto the scene really in around about 2019, 2020. We've spoken about him on the channel before. Leeds have been rumoured around him for a while. Now there are two clubs within this conversation right now. I don't want you guys to blow a mind fart when I tell you who the other club is, because you're going to think, oh, there's no chance. But this guy is a top player. A top player, and the reason I'm talking about him really is because we've managed to lure talents, Premier League talents, to the Championship, and I understand that some are on loan, i.e. obviously Joe Rodon. We've had Ben White previously, haven't we? We've been able to develop him, and we've seen Eddie Nketiah come to Leeds as well, and even permanent signings, Ethan Ampadu being the sort of archetype of that. Helder Costa, another one, and I think this one is really interesting because when you look at the foreign, I understand Leeds were in a little bit of a different phase here when it comes to Leeds getting into the Premier League and Robin Koch and Llorente and been able to attract those players. But I did mention at the beginning of the window that we were going to delve into the German market because of Daniel Farke. Now, it has been spoken about previously as well that Farke is a fan of Hložek, which is very interesting in itself. Maybe that's where the links come from. Maybe it's because Daniel Farke as well, is looking at this guy and thinking, look, if we can get him for 10 million euros in the Championship, you're probably looking at what's the conversion rate there, 8 million quid? That isn't bad at all, but some of his attributes fit exactly what Leeds are looking for anyway. A second striker, someone whose technical ability is way beyond his years in terms of his composure on the ball. A player who's in and around sort of 6'1", and a player who's a good dribbler. Excellent pace, excellent sort of balance as well. Basically all the attributes you want from a second striker. He can play anywhere along the forward line as well. And I wanted to make a video specifically about him because I'm looking at the dots here and I'm looking at someone who potentially could be somewhat of a replacement for Chrysencio Summerville if we are to change how we play a little bit. How we're playing a little bit. We've mentioned previously about Todd Cantwell, Emi Buendia at Norwich, and when Farke really got to grips with things after that first spell, when Nelson Oliveira and James Maddison and co left the club, he started to get to grips with things and started to put his real imprint on stuff. He had 2 number 10s, and with Hložek, because he's such a versatile player on that forward line, this is really interesting. And Leeds have been linked today, but Leeds have been linked previously as well. And we've mentioned before, look, it's a player of which you can see there's a Daniel Farke link there. Obviously he's not managed him before, but there's the Bundesliga link, and obviously there's been talk that he's a big fan of him. Obviously we don't know how real that is and how if there's any foundation to that really, but what's so interesting here is, that second season when Farke was able to put his imprint on that Norwich side, players who were almost just unwanted at previous clubs. Even when you look at someone like, Teemu Pukki as a classic example, everybody had given up on him. And I'm not saying everybody's given up on Klozek, but it's certainly not worked out for him. And you do wonder, can he get to grips with him when it comes to, Daniel Farke and a bit of man management here, and get someone like that through the door? That'd be an unbelievable signing at this level. Obviously, he's playing in the Euros right now for Czech Republic. They've, even 2 years ago, when he was signed by Bayern Munich in 2022 from Slavia Prague, and there was such hype around him, but it feels like that move is, even though he's been part of a double winning season this season, it feels like that's killed him a little bit, and he needs a bit of a revitalisation. Now, the other thing in this picture is Slavia Prague. Now, it feels like, well, we all know that there is a connection. If you guys aren't aware, there's a co-owner connection between Slavia Prague and West Ham United, which is essentially why any Slavia Prague talent that is bolstered in the ranks and is put up as the next big thing, or is, you look at someone like, I believe it was it Kufal and Souček were brought from Slavia Prague, could be wrong on that, but as I said, there's a co-owner link, and every single time there's a discussion on Slavia Prague, West Ham are brought into the picture, so it's an easy link, it's an easy Premier League link every single time. Now, if you're looking at someone like Klozek and you're looking at the minutes played, you're looking at the fact for the Czech Republic, he's not banging goals in, he's not getting an abundance of assists. The stats aren't great. They're not amazing for Klozek, they are not. However, if he's wanting first team minutes once again, and Leeds United are able to afford that, they're able to sell him the picture, and he's able to drop down a division. We've seen it so many times. Bundesliga players have gone to the second tier of English football. They have done it. They've done it. I don't need to go through them all, but they have. You just need to do a little bit of history. Even when you're looking at Daniel Farke's Norwich side, it's happened. So, and we've got it recently as well with Ilya Gruev, dropped down from the Bundesliga. Maybe we'll see it with Ayo Tanaka as well, even though he's part of the Bundesliga 2 setup, but he is a Bundesliga 1 player. So this is where it gets so interesting, because I feel that this is just a silly link between West Ham and between Bayer Leverkusen with Klozek, because, as obviously, as I mentioned previously, the co-owners, there's a connection there between Slavia Prague and West Ham. It's an easy link. So are they actually interested? Are they actually interested is the question. You look at his stats and you think, would West Ham be willing to risk that for 10 million quid? And I don't think they would be. I really don't think they would be. So then, is there a market for Leeds United to then come in and swoop in after they get a little bit of capital? And you've got a second centre forward, you've got someone who can operate in that forward line. It doesn't necessarily have to be a striker. He can operate all along that line. And that is an exciting signing. And then you've got a bit of a staple, you've got a little bit of a man to work around there. And that, everybody, gets me going. As I've said to you before, has sort of got everything when it comes to technical ability, but he's just not had that breeding ground for success, really. So the Czech Republic international, who's out at the Euros now, Adam Hlozek, Hlozek. You want to have a little bit of a Google search? Be my guest, but I tell you what, everybody, for around 8 million quid, 8 to 9 million quid, for someone who was dubbed, when he was signed by Leverkusen, as almost like the next big thing, to have flopped, and for Leverkusen to just be getting rid, I tell you what, it's worth a punt for me, that. And if Leeds can afford it, if we are to sell players on, if we are then to get within that PSR limit, and then we're able to go out and do something like that with the money that we've got, obviously playing it safe, but if we are able to manoeuvre strategy like that, we're able to get someone in that attacking phase, someone who can deliver. As I've mentioned, his stats aren't amazing, but dropping down to the Championship for a talent who, as I said, he's still at the Euro. He's not had a good season. He's not had a great season at Leverkusen, but a lot of it is about where you are as well and creating the right environment for a football player. That is massive. We've seen that with so many Leeds players who haven't really done it previously. Ethan Ampadu being the classic. I'd be excited by this one, everybody. The Leeds link is so interesting because, as I've said to you previously, every Slavia Prague talent, it feels like every Czech Republic talent is linked to West Ham because of the obvious connection. But Leeds just been thrown in there randomly definitely one to keep an eye on. Check him out, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Would you welcome that? Would you not welcome that? Too much of a risk, too much money? I'll see you in a bit. Like, comment, subscribe.